The man of the hour right now is William M. Arkin. He's the guy who left NBC and MSNBC because of the lies surrounding war that he had been kind of asked to push while he was doing commentary for the mainstream network. His accusation is that there was so much misinformation put out about the war. And he said, we weren't reporting the kinds of crimes, the inhumanities that were being carried out because we were too busy focused on Trump. And then he criticized his fellow journalists for not realizing this, for allowing this to happen, and then criticizing the mainstream networks for doing so. When he left his job, he left what was, well, it's supposed to be a letter of resignation. It reads, more like a manifesto. And it's about 2,200, 2,300 words. So there's a significant amount there. But that was his main criticism. Now, I certainly applaud him for saying that. Look, there's misinformation that's being given out about the war, and that many of the important points, or many of the events surrounding the imperialist wars, he doesn't call them imperialist wars, but we know them to be imperialist wars, are not being reported for the sake of the pro-war position. And he criticizes the media, particularly MSNBC and NBC, for not focusing on that and instead going with like 24-hour nonstop Trump coverage. Now, while it's true, and that has happened, I think he fails to understand why they did it. I think to him, he sees it as a rejection of the journalistic integrity that these outlets are supposed to have. They should report the real news and not just continually go on about Trump. They're doing that so that they don't have to report what's going on in the wars because they're for the benefit of the U.S. empire. This whole nonstop 24-hour coverage of Trump is just a distraction. Hey, Trump's an entertaining guy, and there's always something to report because he's always doing something that's highly questionable. But that doesn't mean you get to just completely ignore what's going on in the conflicts around the world that are primarily the cause of the United States. They are U.S. wars, whether directly or through proxy forces. But you see what I'm getting here? He kind of thinks that it's just them not doing due diligence when it's a deliberate cover. We're not supposed to know what's going on in these conflicts. We're not supposed to be made aware of how bad things really are and what the U.S. empire is doing. So that would be my only criticism of him. Now, I'm sure he probably grew up with the whole believing in his country kind of thing and thought that, maybe his job as a journalist was to report the facts, and then, after all this time, and maybe is starting to realize that that's not why he was hired, but he was hired to say certain things from a certain perspective, or more importantly, to omit certain things to push a certain narrative. Now, he's worked on and off for MSNBC, NBC for 30 years. So it's not like he just walked in the door and had no idea what was going on. Okay, so he's a long-time veteran of these issues. So he's been around. He knows. He didn't just come in the door like maybe a few years ago and completely naive about how this works. I'm sure he knows that he lied in some certain situations to justify U.S. imperialism, to justify the continuing construction of the U.S. empire under the guise of fighting the war on terrorism. But I think that's important to understand. Now, he should be celebrated for criticizing the media for not reporting the things that they should be reporting, which are the crimes of the empire. But at the same time, didn't he know that these were going on the whole time and didn't say anything himself, and probably even in his own mind justified them? Now, of course, that would be asking too much out of what was a mainstream reporter. Just him alone criticizing the mainstream for not reporting the things is a huge step. I mean, that's a huge move that you almost never, ever see. So that's a great one alone by itself. And you know what? Chalk it up as a win. and take it. You know, of course, like, you know, we always wish it could be better. But the fact that he'll come up and say this, even though it's not 100% in line with what we think, it should still be celebrated that he is willing to say something about the ongoing U.S. war machine in various countries around the world, killing millions. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.